What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Tap. My name is Michael. I'm very pleased to have you guys with me. Thank you for joining me. If you could do us a favor, like this video, share this video, but mainly subscribe to our YouTube channel. We truly appreciate that support. If you're listening to us on the podcast, feel free to rate and review us. That would do wonders for us, and we'd really, really appreciate it. Now, if you do subscribe to our podcast, don't forget to message us on Instagram or Twitter. You'll be entered into the raffle, all right, for our listener league. At that point, if you win our listener league, and if you win the raffle, or if you get picked in the raffle to join our listener league, you'll have a chance to win this autographed Kyler Murray helmet. Put your fantasy football skills to the test, and get this thing. It's autographed by Kyler Murray. You kind of can't see the autograph. There you go. You can see it there. But the winner of the listener league takes that baby home. Last year, we gave away a Tyreek Hill helmet. This year, it's Kyler Murray. All you got to do, like I said, subscribe. And for a bonus entry into the raffle, join our Discord. That link is in the description below, whether you're listening to the podcast or the YouTube channel. So excited for that. Should be a good, fun league, competitive, as well. Last year's was very competitive. So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode, the round 8 and 9 breakdowns. I'm going in order of ADP. Obviously, it's not 100% correct at this point. All the ADPs are fluctuating like crazy, but most of them are about right. We took these about the end of last week or so, last week, made sure they're all correct. So some players have moved up, some have moved down, but I'll mention those when I see them. But first of all, let's get started. First guy in the 8th round, that's Will Fuller, Miami Dolphins wide receiver. I'll hide the hat, I'll hide the jersey, and I'll hide the bias. Actually, I won't hide the bias because, to be honest, he's wide receiver 43 going off the board, 85.5 ADP. I love Will Fuller as a player. He does have the 1-game suspension going into the year, but to be honest, I don't trust his consistency. He might have some high-end games, but I think there's going to be a lot of low games in between. And to be honest, he's already banged up in the training camp, and that doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. I know he was not injured, didn't get injured last year, played every game he was available to play. But Will Fuller, at this ADP, I'm avoiding. There's a couple wide receivers later on that I'm more intrigued by, at least with their floor, that have similar, maybe not the same upside, because Will Fuller is Will Fuller. He could, his ceiling's a top 15 wide receiver. But I think there's a receivers later on you can get that could match his floor and potential ceiling. Another thing real quick, before I jump into the next guy, you're going to hear a lot of hate. And I don't want to say that rudely, but to be honest, these are the rounds where I'm looking at my quarterbacks, my tight ends, my skill players aren't really who I'm targeting. I'll be straight up and honest with you. A lot of these guys I'm not targeting, especially in this 8th round. There's a couple guys I might target, but this is probably where I'd go quarterback or tight end or something like that. But let's move on. Moving on, ADP of 88.4, 86 overall. San Francisco running backs, Raheem Mostert. He's going off as the running back 30. I like Mostert here. He's still the team's number 1. Trey Sermon is actually going a round or two ahead of him, going in the 7th. Now, obviously, his durability is his liability. But if I need depth at my running back spot, I think Mostert's a great grab. If he stays on the field, I mean, he could finish as easily a top 24 back, especially in that offense. Unfortunately, though, like I said, his durability is his liability. He's only played one full season, or 1 year playing a full season. It was in 2019. He played 16 games. Outside of that, he's never played more than 11 games. And to be honest, with Trey Sermon on his heels, which is why Trey Sermon is going ahead of him, I think that, barring, with an injury or something like that. If he goes down, I think Trey Sermon could take that backfield from him. And Raheem still will have some relevancy, but really he just needs to stay. He needs to stay healthy. So if I'm taking Raheem here, I want him to be my fourth running back on my roster or so. I don't really want him to be my backup, my third. I really want him to be a depth piece here. So I'd be interested in Raheem depending upon, how the rest of my roster shakes out. Like I said, as long as he's my running back 4 or more or greater. Brandon Cooks, 87th, wide receiver 44, ADP of 89 flat. But he's the 87th overall Houston wide receiver. He's been a pretty consistent fantasy player throughout the years, finishing as a top 15 wide receiver in half-point PPR 5 times out of his 7-year career. However, we all know the QB situation in Houston. It's probably the worst situation he's been in. So it worries me. It worries me a lot, to be honest. And even with Deshaun last year, he had 3 top 5 finishes last year in weeks 5, 16, 5, 15, and 16, I believe they were. If you take those away, he finished as a wide receiver 40. So that tells me a couple things. One, he has that upside potential. I mean, he does. We saw it last year, and we saw it a couple times, and we saw it when it mattered too, in the playoffs and in the championship. So, and another thing is he has a low floor. His consistency is not going to be great. A couple of guys that he would have finished around if he wasn't, if you took those 3 weeks away, he would have finished around Devonte Parker, Marquise Brown, Jarvis Landry, Russell Gage. And these are all guys you can get after him here. And I'm not saying that I would go that route. There's actually, I would probably I would take this year Brandon Cooks over Devonte, Marquise, and Jarvis Landry. I would take Russell Gage ahead of Brandon Cooks, but you don't really need to be honest. But overall, I don't like his quarterback situation. I think he's going to have his weeks. I just don't think his floor is going to be there. If I want to take a shot on any Houston wide receiver, to be honest, it's going to be Nico Collins. He's one of the latest, Houston wide receivers going, and I think he could really carve out a role in that offense. So, like I said, you're going to hear a lot of hate this episode, and I'm more looking at this quarterback situation. But Brandon Cooks, if I were to take him, I'd also want him to be like my third or fourth wide receiver. At this point, you could go 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, and be okay. So moving on, Michael Carter, New York Jets running back. He is a rookie, and he is going to be in a running back by committee. He's got Tevin Coleman there, who, to be honest, could completely lose a job. I mean, I think by the end of the year, Michael Carter could have this backfield to himself. He's going to have a couple weeks, I believe, in the first few weeks that are going to be fantasy relevant. But really, I think if you take Michael Carter, you're taking him for the back half of the season. So another guy I want is my running back 4, or 5, just for that back half of the season. I think he will be able to fill in weeks depending upon Tevin Coleman's health and really the whole Jets offense. It's not an offense I'm excited for, but I do like Michael Carter. I liked him coming into the draft, so I wouldn't be opposed of taking him here. He is going as the running back 31, and to be honest, I think he's going to pay on that. I think he's going to finish as a high-end running back 3. Let's move on. Marquise Brown. He was one of my post-hype sleepers, and you know what? I'm taking him off that list, and that's because Rashad Bateman has emerged in training camp. Yes, I know Rashad Bateman is hurt with the groin injury. He might miss the first week or 2 or a couple weeks of the season. But when he comes back, there's just going to be way too crowded. He with Sammy Watkins there, with Mark Andrews still there, obviously, Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman on the team that doesn't throw the ball a ton. I'm not taking Marquise Brown here. He'll have his weeks. He might even have his boom weeks. But I don't think that he's really worth the wide receiver 45 pick. I think you're kind of drafting him right where he might finish, wide receiver 45. Moving on, Jarvis Landry, probably one of my favorite has been one of my favorite targets through the years. He's gotten 100 targets every year since he's been in the league. But at the end of the day, he's a fill-in flex player. He's not going to be a week in and week out flex player. And we saw that last year. Even with Odell Beckham out the majority of the year, he only had double-digit points 6 times last year. And he only finished as the wide receiver 36 or better 5 times. And one of those was a wide receiver 1 finish. So he doesn't have that tremendous upside, especially in the offense that runs so much. So Jarvis Landry, I hate to say it, he's steady, 100 targets, but looking at it, he's really not. He's not. He's going to, if you need 8 points a week, 7 points a week, he's your guy. Look back at it. He's your guy. But I think going forward, him and Odell Beckham's back. And then, of course, they're running the ball like crazy, throwing it to Kareem Hunt out of the backfield as well. Jarvis Landry is just not somebody I really want to take a shot on. I think there's better guys later who can finish higher, have higher ceilings, and about the same floor. So, sorry, Jarvis. I'm sorry. It comes from my heart. Mecole Hardman, another guy. He's gotten a ton of hype this offseason, and that's because Sammy Watkins is gone. Sammy Watkins is gone, and now he's supposed to jump into this wide receiver 2 role in Kansas City, and that's great. And Kansas City is a high-flying offense and blah, 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 blah. Sammy Watkins' highest finish on the season was wide receiver 52 as a whole season, okay? And that was 2 years ago in 14 games. So it's not like he missed a ton of time. We all know Sammy Watkins balls at the beginning of the year and then kind of goes nowhere, which kind of skews his fantasy finishes. But wide receiver 52 on the year, this offense is built through Kelsey and through Tyreek. Every other receiver they have is just a filler. Byron Pringle's going to get a week. Demarcus Robinson is going to get a week. Mecole Hardman's going to get a week. Give me the guys I've gotten in front of him. I just talked about in front of him. I would take all of those guys before I would take Mecole Hardman. It's kind of crazy. He's only had 1 game with more than 4 catches in his career. So that's not a great sign. I understand the offense, but I don't like Mecole. Now, enough of the hate, Michael. Let's move on. Aaron Rodgers, ADP of 92. He's the 92nd player overall. Quarterback 8. Take him. Love it. I said this is a round you're probably going to target a quarterback or tight end, or at least I am. That's what I like here. That's the talent I like. Now, he has bumped up a little bit just inside the 7th round. But he is still quarterback 8. So I'm willing to grab him here at the quarterback 8. I don't think he's not going to throw 48 touchdowns again, but he is going to throw in the high 30s, and he might even eclipse 40 with the 17-game season. So I love grabbing Aaron Rodgers here. I think you're grabbing him. I think his floor is running back 12 barring injury, quarterback 12 to 10 barring injury. Grabbing him at 8, give it to me all day. I think, and we saw it. We saw his ceiling. He quarterback 2, So I have him right around here, right around quarterback 8. So I like grabbing him here, and he has that upside. Let's get to our first tight end, Dallas Goddard, 93, 93rd player overall, tight end 7, 93.4 ADP. It's just too high for me, man. Zach Ertz is coming back. He's back, and he's just not a target I'm really taking. I think you can get as much or similar production from a tight end a little bit later. as you will from Goddard. Not necessarily, earlier tight ends, but as far as Goddard is concerned, you can get the same or similar from other tight ends. Plus not to mention that, they added Devonte Smith this year. Jalen Reagor is looking to, take a step forward. We all saw that nasty one-hand catch. Don't get overhyped about that, by the way, but it was nasty. And then, of course, this is all dependent upon Hurts taking the next step as well. And there were reports Goddard did fail his physical, did come in a little heavy or whatnot coming into training camp. He's back now, obviously, but he's fine. But Goddard's just not somebody. If I'm waiting this late on a tight end of his stature, I'm going to wait a little bit longer because there's a couple guys same or similar. Either the next round or the round after. So let's move on. Again, another one of my guys down in Miami, Jaylen Waddle, wide receiver 48, ADP of 96.3. It's similar. Listen, it's similar to Fuller. I think the consistency could be the issue here. I think with all the receivers down there, it could. However, if anybody is going to be consistent in this offense, I believe it's going to be Jaylen Waddle. Here's why. Already in training camp, you've got Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Albert Wilson. All of them are banged up. They're missing time. I know Jaylen Waddle is coming off that ankle injury from college, but he's been out there. And he's looked fine. He's looked good. And I think that throughout the season, he could be the wide receiver on the field the most. And that's why I'm willing to take a shot on Jaylen Waddle. I'm not willing to take a shot on him in any league, in every league. I'm sorry. I have multiple leagues, so I do want a piece of. I want 1 or 2 shares of Jaylen Waddle. If I'm drafting and this is my only league, I'm probably not taking Waddle at all, just because of the inconsistency in that offense. But if I am in multiple leagues and I do, want a piece of that, the Miami offense or the Miami receivers, this is one that I'd be willing to take, and this is where I'd be willing to take it. Jalen Hurts, quarterback 9, currently 97.1 ADP, 95th overall player. I'm staying away. He did have a very strong end to the season, and I think that's hyping him up, going up all the way up to quarterback 9. A couple things that worry me. His own coach won't name the starter for week 1. Joe Flacco's there. Joe Flacco is the only other quarterback on that team that's, worth anything. Give it to the guy. I mean, I understand what he's trying to do and whatnot, but that doesn't really show me that he has confidence in Hurts, first of all. Second of all, there's the Deshaun Watson rumor mill. I know it happened down in Miami. I know it's happening up there and whatnot, but I truly think that, and if this were to happen, which I don't think there's I don't think it happens, but if Hurts or if Watson was to be cleared of everything, if all his legal troubles just went away, I do think he'd become a Philadelphia Eagle. And at that point, I don't know if Hurts would be a starting quarterback, even if he went to Houston. I think he'd have a quarterback problem down there with Tyrod Taylor. So why am I going to take that risk? The risk on him developing and the risk on him being, not the starting quarterback here at quarterback 9. So Jalen Hurts is a stay away. I know a lot of people, are on the Hurts train, and I understand he gives that rushing ability. But I'm not on that train. Unfortunately, I'm not. If I can get him in the round 10, round 11, it have to be like after Ryan Tannehill, after Matt Stafford, guys like that, that are, have some, not the same upside, not the rushing upside, not the top 5, top 3 finish upside, but still have the consistent quarterback 1 upside. That's where I would take a shot on Hurts. And finally, our last guy in round 8, Michael Pittman. He has actually moved down quite a bit. I've actually seen him in mocks falling all the way to the 10th and 11th round. This is actually that was actually in one of our mocks that we did, our live mock last time. So we had about 10 players in a 12-man league that we drafted. And to be honest, I think Pittman could be a breakout player this year, especially once Wentz comes back. So if I can get him that late, I'm all for it. If Wentz was there, he'd be a guy. Michael Pittman was somebody I was pretty hot on going into the season. Michael Pittman, I would be taking here if Wentz was fully healthy and ready to go right now. I'd say take it. This is the receiver. If I want a receiver in this round, this is the guy I'd be taking the shot on. But give it to me a little bit later because Wentz is not there right now. Wentz is hurt. There's no definite time frame of when Wentz will be back. So I'll take that value. Get him in the 10th or the 11th. And stash him. And like I said, he could break out. So let's move on. Round 9, first guy on the board, another breakout candidate. Everybody's all over him. We've seen his Jalen Ramsey video, and we've seen the videos of Mitch Trubisky missing him on routes and things like that. It's Darnell Mooney. Currently, he's the wide receiver 50, 97.8 ADP. I like it. Another receiver I'm taking a shot on this year. I love grabbing him as my fourth receiver because I think he has that upside. I think he has that not week in and week out, but on a week-to-week basis, he could finish as a top, 15 wide receiver. I know he has Allen Robinson there to compete with him, but he has a more competent quarterback. And I like that. I like Darnell Mooney. He showed flashes last year. And I'm on the Darnell Mooney train. Grab Darnell Mooney here. I think he's probably one of the safer receivers that I was talking about with that high end ability. So next up is James Robinson. Biggest question mark backfield potentially in the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars. 1,400 all-purpose yards last year or rushing yards. I forget. I just know it was a lot. Running back 32, 98.2 ADP. Obviously, they drafted Travis Etienne. James Robinson, he's going to have a role. And if Travis Etienne goes down, he's back to where he was last year. Now, I'm not saying he's going to automatically go back to being running back, 8 or 5 or whatever he was, 6. But he's going to be back in a starting role. So this is another guy I'm taking a shot on. AJ Dillon's going behind him. Ronald Jones is going behind him. Ronald Jones is a little bit more secure, I think, because we know what his role is already. But I don't think he has the same upside as James Robinson. So if you already have your three stable running backs, I'm talking, stable running backs, take a shot on James Robinson. I think that's a great idea. Because similar to last year, it could fall into your lap. I mean, it's just a lot of people are sleeping on him. So I'd be willing to take a shot on him. Let's move on to my favorite tight end. This is where I'd be grabbing him. Tyler Higby. He's currently tight end 8. And actually he's dropped since then. He's dropped down to tight end 11. So, but tight end 8 right now, ADP of 99.8. I love Tyler Higby. Upgraded his quarterback. No more Gerald Everett. Cam Akers is not there. Darrell Henderson is, but I think they're going to rely on the passing game a little bit more than McVay is going to want to. And I think that's just going to benefit Tyler Higby. Grabbing a guy this late, grabbing your tight end now is great. It's great for your team. You can stack up in 8 rounds, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, or however you want to do it. You can stack up 5 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and grab some late round wide receiver flyers and a late round quarterback. I mean, you could do so much with your team grabbing a tight end, right around here. And I think Tyler Higby has the potential to finish top 7, top 6. So in the offense that he's in. So tight end 8 was a little high, but like I said, he's dropped a little bit, and I love him. Tight end, like I said, 11 is where he's going, a round or 2 behind this, but he is here, and we are talking about him. So Moving on, Joe Burrow. This is another guy that has fallen down a little bit. He went from QB 10 here to QB 14. In this range in round 9, I'm not taking the shot on him. Tom Brady's here. I'd take a shot on him. Like I said, I'd take a shot on Aaron Rodgers in the round prior. But Joe Burrow's going at QB 10 2 rounds later. So I'd be taking a shot on him there, but not in round 9 at the end of the day. Ronald Jones, running back 33, ADP of 102.9. I like him here. We know what we're getting. We're getting a solid flex player, okay, week in and week out. There are going to be weeks, that Leonard Fournette, vultures them. But he had 7 weeks with 10 or more points. So half of his season, he was a solid flex player. Most of those were high double-digit games. So Ronald Jones is somebody, I'd be targeting here. If I need somebody with a nice floor, maybe I grabbed a Travis Etienne early, somebody who's high risk, maybe a Javonte Williams earlier. And I just need a running back who can fill in my running back 2 spot, maybe on a bye week, or just that uncertainty. I think Ronald Jones is somebody that could do that. Moving on, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay, keeping it going. Quarterback 11, 104.7 ADP. Love it here. I love it with all the weapons he has around him. I think no way he does not return on this. I think he has a very similar year next year. A lot of my buddies say 5,000 yards and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Maybe with 17 games he hits that, but Tom Brady here he is a high target of mine. To be frank, is I'm targeting Tom Brady. If I don't get him, I'm probably waiting to pick up and just stream quarterbacks. But I love taking him here. I'm willing to take him in the 8th if Aaron Rodgers is gone. Tom Brady is a solid play. Noah Fant, tight end 9, ADP of 104.9. Another tight end. I love his upside, but I just don't love where he's going. Tight end 9, I think that's where his upside is a top 5 tight end, but I don't see that with the quarterback situation here. Plus all the other weapons he has around him. I'd rather wait a little bit for the tight end. So I'm not actively targeting him. If I want a share of a tight end around this range, this 8 to 9 range, him and Higby are the 2 that I'm targeting. But I think that, we saw Drew Lock target him a ton last year, but I think that Fant is the guy that I would target for upside and just to have a share of. Next up, AJ Dillon, Green Bay Packers, RB34, 105 ADP. No, not taking him. Nope. Aaron Jones, RB5 and RB3 the last 2 years. He is the guy. I think that if he goes down, AJ Dillon's a great handcuff. But I'm not taking a handcuff this early. I don't want that. I don't want to goal line. I don't want to goal line back this early. I don't want a short yardage back, which is what AJ Dillon will be and is. So I'm not taking the shot on AJ Dillon. I don't care if they say it's going to be more of a committee or it's not going to be. AJ Dillon's going to get the short yardage and maybe some of the goal line. Aaron Jones is still going to get goal line work. So at that point you're relying on touchdowns alone from AJ Dillon, and I don't think that's what's gonna come. So I don't think round 9's a great spot for him. I'd rather take Ronald Jones just a little bit earlier if I need to. There's also a couple guys a little bit later that I might take a shot on as well. Russell Gage, round 9, wide receiver 51, ADP of 105.9. Actually, I just came from the Dolphins Falcons joint practice. Originally I wasn't hot on Russell Gage. Originally, they added Kyle Pitts and whatnot. I think Russell Gage is a solid grab later guy, 4th to 5th receiver that you can have to fill in your bye weeks, and he's got the upside. We saw it last year. He's got plenty plenty of upside. We saw, in Julio's absence that he could easily have those games where those massive games. I mean, last year he finished as a wide receiver 37, and that it wasn't consistent, but it's still, I mean, he had filler weeks, and I think this year he only gets better, and going as the wide receiver 51, it's a no-brainer to me. He's probably my, let's see, if I had to rank the receivers real quick, he is probably my third favorite in these two rounds. Devonte Parker, Miami. Sorry, DVP. I'm not wide receiver 52. I'm not taking the shot on you this year. I don't want, I'm tired of it. I'm sorry. As a fan, he had the 1 year, but just not on the field, not in the field enough. And I on top of that, you have all the other receiving options in Miami. There's no point. There's no point to take that risk, when you don't need to. All right, let's see. Corey Davis, last two. Corey Davis, wide receiver 53, ADP of 107.6. I'm staying away. Another guy. I know I'm hating on a lot of people right now, and I hate it. I've got a very specific list of, guys who I target. If you go back and watch my the best draft strategy video, I talk about how I go through it round by round. I only have a few guys I target in each round, actively, and it's kind of how I'm giving it to you guys. I want you guys to see, be able to pick out the players that have the upside, because you're shooting for upside at this point, but you really also want somewhat of a floor. And a lot of these guys don't give any floor. And I think Corey Davis is one of those guys. I know he had a great year last year, but it was finally he was drafted to do that. And you got that on top of, he hasn't performed before, you have Zach Wilson there, and a new quarterback, new offense. I'm not hot on Corey Davis. I don't like Corey Davis. Actively staying away. One of my least favorite guys in this round, actually. And then finally, last guy, Logan Thomas, tight end 10, ADP of 108.4. Originally, I was off this. Originally, I was not liking Logan Thomas, just because they have Curtis Samuel there. They have Terry McLaurin. They drafted Yami Brown. They still have a couple like Andy Golden and guys like that they drafted previous. They have Antonio Gibson there. But Logan Thomas, I think, can have a pretty productive and consistent year, especially with I wouldn't say consistent, but a pretty productive year with Ryan Fitzpatrick, with Ryan Fitzpatrick there. So if I want, he's a guy that has a high ceiling, lower floor. But I mean, he showed it last year. He can play tight end. He could break out into being a top 5 tight end. And I think he's got the quarterback to do it. So if I'd prefer to get him a little bit later, not reach for him in the 9th. If I can get him at the back end of the 10th, beginning of the 11th, I'd like that. But you're more than likely not going to. But if you're tight end needy and you want somebody who can have that upside, I think the high upside, because I think out of the guys that we've, Higby, Fant, and Logan Thomas, I mean, it's a toss up between Fant and Thomas, but I might give it to Fant with his quarterback situation, upside wise. So, but that's it, guys. That's my breakdown of round 8 and 9, just how I'm feeling about those guys there. I told you it was going to be a lot of hate, but there was some good. There was some good for sure. Don't forget, subscribe, like the video, hit the little bell for the notification, and don't forget to get in on this raffle for this beautiful autographed Kyler Murray helmet. I will see you guys next time.